again last week that it's not about the punitive and retribution aspects of it. It's about the enabling and empowering piece. And I think that's an easy resolution to this thing, right?
Well, you know what it is. It's the languaging, the sensitivity that it was 18 months of work with Fabian. Hi, Gertrude. It was 18 months of work with Fabian where both of us became very sensitized to language infected with, afflicted with, burdened by old paradigm baggage. And so the dis in disagreement carries an adversarial energy, a winner-loser energy that is just ingrained, imprinted in the experiential association people have with the word and the language. It's almost like an invitation out of the box to go, to start from this place, as opposed to inverting that, where if the trigger languaging is about meeting of minds, where people have different visions or different ideas, it's languaging in a way that doesn't push that button. And we're in unblocking, so this is perfect. It's about, language that pushes buttons out of the box.
Yes.
To set people up to come at or approach things in a particular way.
But if I might just add three small thoughts to that. Number
Sure.
one, it does remove that block. I completely get it. But it kind of introduces a different one, which is that people already understand what this word means. And then secondly, there are thousands of words that have etymology that is derived from past bad habits.
Absolutely.
Thousands.
Absolutely.
So
And
yes, I can work with you on the transition, the migration, the introduction of new terms, et cetera, et cetera. But at least, if people understand what the word means, we can at least work together to get there, right? So the whole issue is it's easy to talk about what's bad today. It's easy to talk about what's good in the future. What's hard is how do you get from one to the other, right? And that
absolutely.
requires, some creativity, some imagination, some compromise, some patience. And you can't just say, oh, immediately we're going to go to the future if you're really being impractical or quote unquote unrealistic. There's another word. Okay. That's
Well, see, here's the interesting thing, right? Language, first of all, language sucks. Like
but it
language
also enables.
language intrinsically as a tool just carries huge problematic stuff around these areas. It's obviously marvelous for all that it enables. So when I say, language sucks, I'm not unitary in that. But where it does badly, it does really badly. And so languaging when people express themselves is the second most powerful energization toward the generative process of creating something. So if the first step is for me to imagine or think something, to have a thought or an idea in my head, the minute I publish it, I put it out into the ether. I'm affecting the universe and everything in it. I'm projecting an energy. I'm projecting an activation, right? So the very act of saying something is generative, or conversely destructive, because words can go both ways, right? And so the reason for relanguaging for me is if there's a transformation of the reality we're in to a different reality, a new reality that serves us and the planet and the biome better, then every word I speak is a contribution to one or the other. Either I'm playing the past paradigm forward, I'm adding to it and continuing its legacy, or I'm projecting new. With each word that I speak, I mean, this is literally how I experience my world and my life these days. Every word out of my mouth is going to be reflective of one or the other. So when I go after languaging, you're right. Everybody understands disagreement, but everybody has that internally associated programmatic adversarial energy attached to it as well as part of that gestalt and understanding. If I can avoid that word, if I can not engage with disagreement, but I can engage with difference of vision or idea or concept and work toward meeting of minds, and how can I contribute to getting to meeting of minds faster? And it's experientially about shifting into inquiry, shifting into curiosity. It means I don't use that language. So the idea of so let me bring this to ground in a very concrete, tangible way. So if the conversation out of the box is defined as we need to learn how to disagree better before the first word is spoken and the first exchange is had, the thing that's being given energy in that, even if the statement is in the negative or toward improvement of, is disagreement. I'm feeding that wolf. You know, the wolf thing about which one do you feed is the one that wins. I'm feeding the wolf. So my reactivity to language, like, and it comes up in lots of contexts because it's so endemic in our language to play the current paradigm forward and to keep us fighting with each other and keep us, defensive with each other. Language becomes a hugely powerful energy projection into the universe. Yeah. So, and with that, I'm complete.
So probably 3 or 4 things to say about that. Okay, I do agree with everything you do say, and I don't have any fundamental disagreement with it. The question is, you have to look at the energy projection in totality, not in each individual little microsecond or picosecond or nanosecond or whatever. Okay, so in totality, if we're doing something that's moving the energy upwards, okay, then that's a net move forward. The other thing is, and this I think does get to why I put it as disagree well, it's taking this notion of disagreement and improving how we actually understand it. So I'm trying to rid it of that negative connotations, okay? And so it is not a bad thing to take something and clean it up, right? We do it every day. We try and brush off in fact, I take the pee and the poop out of the bathroom every day. It's just something we normally do, okay? So cleaning things up, making them better is actually a movement forward, and it is positive energy. And the other thing I think about this is, in a sense, doing it better is doing it sooner, as you just said. Because for it to fester for 2 years is not really projecting good energy, because it shows that we're not actually coming to you call it the meeting of the minds. I actually, as we were speaking and as I've been thinking about your mom term, thinking maybe I actually understand it better as mapping of the minds, okay? And maybe if we do MOMO, we're mapping of mental objects, okay? So if we're going to introduce new terms, let's introduce, a more specific new term, and I'm not going to actually map my mind onto yours, but it's just specific objects within them, because there's no hope that my mind's actually going to map completely to yours or meet. Anyway, so I just have a number of these questions where if we're actually looking at the periphery at the nth order detail of things, we lose the overall general gestalt, and we, in a sense, also waste time. And that time wasting is directly in response to the urgency of the issues that we're here trying to deal with. So I'm not disagreeing with you in the details. I'm just saying, look at, hopefully, the larger energy, the larger gestalt, the larger movement, the perhaps quicker movement, rather than be, dragged down by the third or fourth or fifth order details. Because the first order detail is people understand what these words mean. And if we get that, we map the words, we move forward, and then we can have a conversation of, oh, geez, let's see, let's actually come up with a new one. That's okay. But to actually let the nth order details block us makes this a very arduous 2-year effort. I'm done. Over. Hi, Stacy. Hey, Gertrude. Hey, Jaswinder. Hey, Josh.
Jazz, something came up for you when he said that. What was it? I could see the smoke coming out of your ears. So something associative, I thought, was going on for you. Do you have a contribution, maybe?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I saw Jazz
Yes,
waiting for someone.
did come up. Yes, language is a wonderful thing. The thought process and the vocalization and all that. It flashed back to pre-language organisms and pre-thought organisms, if there was ever such a thing, or going right back to when there was absolutely nothing, was the original thought, was the first splitting of that nothing into two parts before we get anywhere near the Big Bang. How did that occur without a thought? That's where it went. Sorry, I didn't realize you were so sensitive. Thank you.
I do try to pay attention.
So yes, we do communicate with and without language. The other place it went to was my little 2-year-old granddaughter. She hardly ever speaks with me now. She just gestures or takes me and points at things. And then I have to guess what she means. So it's excellent. Yes.
She's training you.
I think I'm complete with that. I don't have anywhere else to go with it. Thank you.
I have 2 quick thoughts. Number one, tools can be used both for good or for bad. We all know this, right? And language is another tool. So the question is, do you want to keep looking for the right hammer out of 10,000 hammers and create the right, hammer as you're building a project? Or do you want to get something done and then go out and buy the hammer when you've got some time? At least then the project, has some time, has a foundation, has a window, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can later come on and say, well, there's a wrong size screw. I'll replace it. I'll do that. But at least things are functioning in the meantime. So that's the number one. Okay. And then 2, words and diction. By the way, rather than relanguaging, if we're actually doing the relanguaging bit, I'd rather actually say redictioning, because diction is the act of selecting words, not language. Language is the act of communication, but diction is actually the selection of words. That's why we call it a dictionary, for example, right? So we could say redictioning if we're actually saying, hey, let's use Momo rather than disagreement. So that's another way to look at this. And then the other thing is, a word, when it splits the universe, doesn't split it in half, right? It picks something out of the universe. So as we get sensitive to these color patterns, we're not actually seeing, oh, half of the universe is this, half of the universe is that, so I'm going to call it this way. But it's actually assigning a symbol to a particular pattern of either oral signals or video signals or whatever, okay? So it's actually the dot in the yin-yang symbol, not the black and white sections of it, okay? Just wanted to give you that little imagination piece as well. Over. Hey, Tammy.
Gertrude?
I just put
Welcome,
in,
Tammy.
Hi, Tam. I put in the speak green link. Claudia Groß, who is living in Cairo, she started that new kind of dictionary, and maybe I've talked about it already. It's more to, yeah, it's I mean, about this discussion we're just having. So she started to use other words, not maybe inventing them, but more being aware of which words to use, and to see more into what do we create with that notion. So, and I think it's not either or. We cannot stop talking before making a difference. And while we are speaking, we can be more aware of what kind of words we use. Do we more feed division? Do we more feed like discord, or do we more feed what we actually want, not what we don't want? So, and I think this is, Speak Green is really, I mean, she started with a few words and it's adding on, so it's becoming like growing dictionary. And I love it. I saw her in Nice this year, and yeah, she was talking about it and how she references it. Yeah, that's, and it's nice because she takes the red words and the green words, so it's very much resonating with what we are doing. Yeah. So,
Stacy?
So I came on a little bit late, but I think I understood the conversation, and I realized how important the words are. But I think at the same time, it would be in our best interest to look at what happens to each of us individually when we're involved in a disagreement, because we may know the right word to pick or the right way to behave, but if we don't have an awareness about ourselves and we don't get into the practice of holding ourselves to standards, it won't matter that we know the right words. We have to get used to using them. And, you know, whether we like it or not, there is a competitive nature within us. And I think if we use that to be, you know, on ourselves, to really be able to talk about and recognize why we get so upset when somebody's disagreeing, it might give us internal motivation to do better at that.
That hits my ear in a strange way, so I just want to inquire into it a bit. Because what I'm hearing is, in the spirit of an inherently competitive frame, use your internal competitive instinct to drive how you're doing what you're doing, or to do what you're doing better. And I just wonder whether and this gets into this idea of which wolf am I feeding, right? Do I really want to feed the idea that the competitive has to be there?
You know, this sort of illustrates the point. I probably would have been better off leaving my point without mentioning why I believed it might work, which was using the word competitive. If I just would have said about, you know, self-awareness and figuring out why we get so upset in a disagreement, and didn't explain my thought process behind that, where I would use the word competitive, we'd be talking about something else right now. So I'm I'm looking at your face and I'm not seeing any connection to what I'm saying.
No, it's valuable to me to know your frame. So I take your use of the word through that lens and in that context. And so my response for me was, I don't know whether I want to feed a competitive anything in how I relate to the world. So the supposition, if I heard what you said right, was that everybody is effectively, has this competitive gene. And I think certainly that, lizard brain, we're obviously we have survival instinct stuff that associated with that idea, those energies and all of that. So I'm not denying that exists in our DNA and in the stack up of awarenesses, consciousnesses, all the color coded stuff of integral and all of that. That's a dimension that exists. The question for me is, isn't that the dimension we've got to evolve out of it or ultimately transcend if we're going to do us differently or do us better?
I just want to jump in real quick because I agree with what you're saying. But what I'm saying is somebody like you doesn't need to tap into that competitive part because you are already motivated to look within yourself and to figure out why you're acting the way you're acting and to behave differently. We have a lot of people in this world that don't feel that way, however. And I'm just thinking that making it known, let's say, for example, the culture agreed that getting excited over disagreements was a negative, culturally speaking. Maybe bringing that to the awareness of people that really don't even think about it. I mean, there are a lot of people that are not introspective. The people on this call is not necessarily representative of the majority of people in the world. So I'm looking towards those people for any motivation I could find to do better.
Understood. Yes, Sam.
So I'm mapping a mental object in my mind right now, okay, in that I do strongly feel that you're helping me improve the way I diction some of these statements. I also would then question my own behavior if I were to see people using tools, let's say computers, let's say applications, let's say non-productively or perhaps wastefully, okay? So one of my rants in the technology realm is that copy is evil. So when you actually copy a file, okay, you create a version, somebody else has a version, now you now send it around. You probably send it to several people for review. Now there's N different copies of it. Somebody comments or actually, makes a revision, and now you've got hell. So hell is N different copies that are all different and have different comments and revisions, and it's a long time to get that thing put back together, okay? So that's why I have this little minor rant called copy is evil. So if I know that copy is wasteful, there's all these billions of electrons, being used where you could have used, just a 20th of them, okay? Then I could say, hey, why don't you just do something like this, okay? Don't use copy anymore. And I could just say that every day, and people will get a little bit annoyed, after probably about the 7th or 8th time because they have their habits. Now, if they understand the point, if I make it once, and then they come to me and say, hey, how do I use it? Well, should I use WordPress? Should I use Google? Should I use something else? Now we have an engaged, positive movement forward. But for me to project the fact that I know better and that you're not, doing better is me projecting. And I'm actually trying to help the world. Okay, I really am. Okay. But I got to pull back because eventually, that that grates. If I'm daily telling people, hey, don't use copy, hey, don't use copy, hey, don't use copy, don't use email, don't use email, don't use email, right? People have their habits. So I'm trying to actually map my mental objects from the use of diction to the use of, let's say, technical advice, which is an area where I have some expertise, Joshua as well, right? So it's a balance. It's a balance of saying something, making someone aware of it, looking for that willingness to engage and learn. But, when people don't indicate that willingness to engage and learn something better, they're still functioning. They're still sharing information. They're still creating. They're still interacting. They're still collaborating.
They're still copying.
Exactly. They're still copying. And so I can actually look at that and let that bother me. Or I could say, hey, this is the way they are today, and we'll try again tomorrow. So the whole notion, I think, of agile is to live with imperfection. And which imperfections you choose to live with is, again, these wolves that you have on your shoulders. And you got to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that, are we collaborating? Is the energy moving? Okay. If so, I might actually live with a little bit of wastefulness, in files, file names, electrons, energy, all this sort of thing. And I do every day because I know everybody's at a certain different level of engagement with technology and collaboration tools. Words are just another technology and collaboration tool. Yes, let's move it forward, but let's not make it stop the collaboration itself. And that's the notion of agile. Do it as you've got it today. Tomorrow, do better. That's it. That's all. So that's how I'm mapping of the minds. Over.
That's music to my ears, Sam. What you just said, I'm smiling from ear to ear. Thank you so much for saying that. Beautiful. I'm complete.
So this is a really interesting, hey, Alex, this is a really interesting seesaw, right? This idea of balance between, and I think this also came up yesterday. I think, was it Doug? I think Douglas
Here's talking about balance
introduced
between
it.
process and content.
This balance between process and content, which, rubric wise, I'm not sure captures the essence, but because there's a third dimension, process and content. There's an added dimension to that when dealing with us, human beings, working and playing with each other, which is process, content, and experience. And the truth of it, at least I believe, that ultimately experience trumps the other two every time. If somebody is triggered, or somebody is put off, or somebody is blocked in and amongst the process and the content stuff, they're gone. They're no longer engaged, involved, connected to either, whether you're in process or whether you're in content. And so there's a balancing act. Josh, I see your hand. You're queued up next. There's a balance / awareness that's critical, and that, to my mind, is the reason for Sundays, for unblocking. There's this balance. It's not that unblocking is the sole point of focus. It's that unblocking addresses this third dimension, which in the current paradigm, isn't even acknowledged as existing or important or relevant. Everything is about process and about content, and about getting the job done. So, but there's this experiential piece where there's casualties all over the place. There's lost contributive, generative value all over the place. And it's sort of dismissed because the trains need to run on time, because we need to get to the next stop, because we need to produce whatever. And I think it's not either or, it's and, first of all. It's all three of these things that are part of the mix. And from I'm going to use an old paradigm frame, from an optimization standpoint, I believe the net generative potential and outcome is exponential if this third experiential dimension is factored in with equal weight priority as the other two. Because if somebody's triggered or dropped out or blocked or left by the side, that's a loss to the team. That's a loss to the effort and the initiative. And getting that person back on board, welcome. How do you pronounce your first name before I do violence to it?
I think you're talking to Chetan.
Yes. Is that it?
Chetan. How do you
Chetan?
pronounce your first name? Is it Chetan?
Is it Chetan?
Are you hearing us?
I'm not sure. It looks frozen.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see whether we get motion back and then we can clarify. What, Tammy?
We got some glitch.
Yeah, we got a glitch. So it's about all three. And Josh, you were next, and then Sam, you're after Josh.
Yeah, I was just going to exemplify your point. I got in an argument with my mom this morning, and I couldn't understand why we were arguing because I was so excited about a talk with the guy who wrote Guns, Germs, and Steel. Well, welcome back. Hello. Thank you for joining. And we got in this big argument, and I was so excited about Yuval Harari was meeting his mentor, the guy who wrote Guns, Germs, and Steel, and they were on stage in Brazil. And the guy made a point that 7% of Brazilians believe the earth is flat and 4% don't know if it's flat or round. And it really triggered my mom, and I couldn't figure it out. And we got in this big 6-minute argument. And then I finally realized, why are you so upset? And she said, it's just so upsetting about this education. And I went, but it's not that big a deal. And she went, oh, I thought you said 70% of the people. So it was all over the word 7% and 70%. She heard 70 and I said 7. So it really is. And then, but I think sometimes we have to stop. I think the most important thing is to go, why are you so upset? And then we find out they're upset because of the fictional dialogue in their head of what they heard, as opposed to what's really going on in that moment. And I think that was my example just to prove this morning that a lot of times we're just not heard. I said 7 very clearly, 7%, but she heard 70. So again, with what you were saying earlier, Stacy, words are really dangerous. So I just was exemplifying that point. That's all I wanted to say. And I think Sam had a more important thing to say.
Excuse me, I just want to clarify how to pronounce your name. Is it Chetan? And welcome, by the way. Is that pronounced properly?
We don't hear any sound.
We're not hearing you, but you were moving.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's pronounced as Chetan.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I just want to this experience dimension that you're bringing up, Doug. And that is, again, I don't disagree with you at all in what you just said, but I think there's an experience that you're not adding into this equation, and that's the experience of those who are not here, right? Those who are not here in the form of people who come here and then bounce out, or people who are suffering because we're not yet helping them. So you have described the experience of people who come here and try to engage. And yes, I completely agree with you on all of your points. about their experience of, how we use tools, how we use words, how we use, et cetera, et cetera. But in the total picture, there's 1,000 people who would like to get involved, but don't understand yet what we're doing. And we're not offering them anything that helps them get more clear. And then there's millions, potentially billions of people who are not getting any benefit from what we're doing here, because we're at the third and fourth orders of nuances and implications of words, and that has been holding us up in communicating aspects of why we're here or what we could do together, or even putting two people together so they can do individual things, okay? So it's that total experience, the world experience, that is much bigger, in my view, okay, than the individual experience of someone here who actually hears a word and gets triggered by it, okay? There's a much bigger world out there. And that is the bigger picture that I think we're not yet understanding. We come here in a very, very privileged manner. How many people can afford this much time to actually look at fourth and fifth order nuances of words? That's not why we're here. We're here to do something bigger. And that's my trigger point that I'm just being transparent with, is that, so long as we still keep getting bogged down in these repetitive conversations, it holds us back. What I'd rather see us do is move in an agile fashion, accept our imperfection, do what we can, retrospect, learn, say, I'm going to improve this, and then the next time, do better. And do this repeatedly, do this fast, do this often, do this for the rest of our lives. This is how we get there, okay? Not by looking at third and fourth and 17th order effects of nuances for new frames, old frames, or whatever. Let's be on the journey. Let's not describe utopia and worry about the, nth nuance of utopia while we're still sitting in a world that needs this climate control acted upon, these food issues acted upon, these preservation issues acted upon, these permaculture issues acted upon, okay? These collaboration issues acted upon. And so focus and priority will help us understand alignment, co-visioning, collaboration, and let's not get bogged down in these nth order effects and lose the first order effect, which is the actual 80%, okay? The first order effect is the 80%. Let's focus on getting there before we get to 90, before we get to 95, before we get to 98, before we get to 99. Let's do the 80. If we know we're on the right direction, but we can't even get at that understanding if we're worried about these etymology nuances. Over.
So if I can be a little risky, if you, within the context, every time I come into one of these sessions, I'm seeing the world. Right now, I look at all of the people comprising this temporary collective as the world. Now, if you're here judging the subject of Sunday unblocking as fourth or fifth degree etymologies that are tangential and irrelevant to the core challenges and issues, which are the meat and potatoes where we should be spending our effort and time and energy, then that voice has you present, engaged, and in inquiry with what's going on here, or has you literally gritting your teeth for what, based on what you just shared, seems like an obscene self-indulgence and waste of time. And there's this other fork called barn raising, on Saturdays, which is your baby from the standpoint of that's the place where you, in principle, can do exactly what you're saying. How's it going? Have you raised any barns lately? Or are there some challenges with actually doing that here through this medium at a different day, but same time and channel? So I wonder whether what's going on here isn't so distant, remote, and tangential and insignificant and irrelevant. Maybe through a different lens or a different point or perspective. You ever see one of those graphics where it looks like it's an overlay that looks like a completely random pattern of dots? And then they rotate it and all of a sudden it's a geometric shape, it's a cube. And so, and that's, by the way, how I sort of look at everything. So I see it that way. And my job mission, should I decide to accept it, is to figure out how to rotate what I'm looking at any given point in time to see what the meaning is, what the structure is, what the value is, what the energy is. So I believe that this human dimension, which is biological and which is emotional and spiritual and energetic, and which is really, really, because of that, messy and unpredictable and challenging to, I find one-on-one, I can get to meeting of minds. Really challenging when there are 3 people. When there are 8 people, oh my God. what a bear. And in our current system and paradigm, 250,000 employee corporation, global corporation, and busy, get busy, working. And this whole dimension doesn't even not even on the radar. Not even part of the inquiry. So in the eye of the beholder, maybe, but from a presence, attention, openness, inquiry, and values standpoint, to what degree is that all the stuff you shared and expressed a block? Or not? I mean, I'm not projecting that on you. But it's a lot of judgment and a lot of filtering built into it. And just, not for nothing. So with that, I'm complete. And would love to hear some other voices also, so we're not monopolizing this. Jazz?
A long time ago, we tried to write the objects for Interfaith Wolverhampton Interfaith. It used to be called something else. And it was my first experience of trying to write objects or some sort of an explanation as to what we were about. And from my point of view, I wanted it to be as tight and as exact as possible. And from people who had been there much more than I had, lots more experience, they were keeping it very flexible and extremely vague And I didn't understand that. We were going back quite a few years. And obviously it stayed in my mind. And like now, at other times, I too have wondered about the vagaries of the language as to why we have vagaries. And I speak several other languages as well. And I was just going through the vagaries of those languages and how they reflect with the vagaries of English languages. And they're very, very similar. So they do exist independently and collectively. And they are there in law as well, lawful documents. And some of those documents, a whole document can hinge on one word. And I'm not taking sides, I'm not casting aspersions or anything like that. And I think that they have a genuine usefulness at times, and at times they are a nuisance. And they are there to be used and enjoyed as and when required. Something hard and something soft or in between. And we have to have qualifiers to go with them. So it's up to us to use the qualifiers. If we take a word and we have lots of words that have exact meanings, it isn't too far long into the future that it will be softened and molded to mean something that somebody else wants to mean, just so to avoid plagiarism or something like that. So I don't have much more to say on that, other than that we will continue with this. And I many years ago, I had a similar conversation, and I was all for being much more exact, and I've changed my mind since then. So I enjoy the vagaries of language and the poetry and the looseness. Thank you very much for the opportunity of my opinion on this tremendously exciting and yet quite boring subject. Thank you.
If I recall Doug's point yesterday about processing content, and you also then touched on, hey, I've got on a Saturday forum. This is unblocking. Why don't you go build a barn? Yes, that is risky. That is pokey, but it's okay. Because the whole point that you and I both realize, and we've been in conversation long enough about this, is if you're building something, occasionally you're going to need a tool. You're going to have to go to Ace Hardware and go get that tool. In a sense, you could say you're blocked, right? But if somebody's saying, okay, I'm on my way to go to Ace Hardware no matter what you need, and there's no barn raising going on, they're never going to go, right? You got to have both together. This is the processing content. This is the blocking, unblocking. This is the barn raising, unblocking kind of relationship. So yes, it is perfectly normal for unblocking to address issues that are happening elsewhere. And it's also perfectly normal for issues taking place elsewhere to be blocked at times, and they can either resolve it then, or they can actually bring it to Sundays, okay? Sundays is nice because we can talk about things that are actually very general that most people can relate to. If people don't really care about, this particular Torx wrench, and I'm saying, give me a Torx wrench, sorry, then we're gonna have 9 people here that are bored if they don't care about Torx wrenches, right? But what you and I are talking about, I think, does deal with how all communication, all interaction takes place. And what I'm trying to bring forth in an open, inquiring way is, can we do this in a more agile, more learning mode model, rather than being so strict about these nuances?
I agree on that.
Being brought up so often, then it's that strictness, that's actually blocking, let me use that triggering word, any possible collaboration, because that collaboration can't move forward if the focus is on those nuances. That's why I'm trying to focus on, where is the meat of what it is we're trying to do. And that's why I'm saying it's the 80%. Let's recognize that every attempt is imperfect. Until you recognize that every attempt is imperfect, you're not going to be able to learn. You're not going to be able to do, because you're going to be so hung by frustration. If back when I was learning the violin, I couldn't actually do a scale unless I got every note correct, where would I be today? I'd be nowhere. I practice every day, and every day those notes are imperfect, but every day they improve slightly. And we're not yet practicing. That's my point, is we have to start learning how to practice. Over.
I'm not sure everybody would agree on that. I would certainly agree. Yes, we have to practice. We have to practice every day. Sorry, Thomas, did you want to come in then?
Well, I think Gertrude also unmuted.
Okay.
So both of you, Tammy, Gertrude.
We have a term, we've created a term, rather, need to translate it, rather starting imperfectly than hesitating perfectly.
Can you say more?
Hmm?
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, it's this like riding a bike. You actually can think about it a lot, but you have to, and you cannot do it by hesitating. You have to move in order to actually do it. So yeah, starting imperfectly, then hesitating perfectly. So that's what came to my mind. And the funny thing is, I actually feel like I'm doing the work. I'm doing the work maybe just within my own person, but it has a lot of implications towards our tribe, our little one, and beyond, because yeah, and we're working on this AI process with energy check energy saving check, which is pro bono. And my colleague and I, we are working a lot to do that. And there is something that our conversations here made a difference for me, and me being different in what I do. So I can hear Sam, and I can acknowledge and go along. And at the same time, I don't think we're not doing. I'm not, even though I cannot attend often because I have so many things on, and yeah, and this summer has been really, really tough. Hopefully, end of this month, we have a solution. But yeah, this feeling of
Bummer.
That's suspense.
I got the tail. It's feeling of. So hopefully we can have her pick up with where she left off when she comes back.
yeah, I'm back.
You're back. I have this feeling, and then you cut out. You froze. So if you could pick up there.
there is one part, what do we do together here? And there, Sam is right. We haven't achieved much. So, and if that is the focus, then I can go along. And on the other side, it's like being together, having those conversations makes me different, or makes me feel and work and act differently, and have different thoughts towards my normal work and towards, yeah, for example, doing a pro bono thing that, so sometimes we are teasing, say, okay, let's write an invoice. It's 20,000 or it's 25,000. So, yeah, and it's about working together for people that don't have much money. So for households, low income households. And yeah, maybe, I don't know if Harry is still, because we don't have the big, but Tammy and Harry were planning on coming. And so it's like, yeah, I just wanted to say that because I hear the complaints, and I hear, and that's true. And at the same time, I think it feels different on another level.
Tammy?
I met Lucy a few days ago. So good to be here. So nice to see everyone. Yeah, I mean, we certainly haven't done what I thought we'd do. And about 1% about what I wanted to do. And I realized that for me, it was, it's about specific people having specific conversations, not about an open space for everyone to put their ideas forward. So that's been the main shift in my knowing through taking the role to hold the space for a bunch of these. That's not to say that I didn't learn a lot. Sometimes more than once. And it's about interpersonal relationships and how people get along or don't get along, and how someone's words might trigger me, and that's to do with me. So what I have experienced, though sort of along the track of where Gertrude was sharing, is that I've incredible relationships, and helping people one-on-one more. Like I've had a lot of conversations where I've helped someone that day for something that they were struggling with, and they just needed someone to listen or give feedback, considered feedback, or hold space for them to share what it was that they're learning. And
I agree on this.
Thanks, Chetan. So, and then there's some bigger ticket items, like helping Gertrude with her book, and Lucy with hers, and just about to start Doug doing some contribution to yours, and with many of the people sitting down and really listening to them talking about what they wanted to do. I think that helped every time in some way, because if it didn't help, that helps. It helps to know it doesn't help. And what I realized most of all is that I want to work with people who make me feel good about working with them. I don't want to slap upside the head or a disagreement and spend an hour and a half talking about that. These are my contributions. This is my time and energy. I don't want to be in a bad vibe. So I'm going to choose not to do that. And Lucy taught me that too. And I, like it took me a long time because I was like, well, everyone should be able to be welcome, and everyone is. I just don't have to be the one that holds that space. And I don't think it works. What works is when I say, oh my God, Jaswinder, I want to help you with this particular thing. Alex, can I help you with this? And then Alex can say yes or no. And, I think that I don't know all of it, but I know there's been a huge amount of connection, collaboration, sharing, help behind the scenes here. And I don't think any one of us can know, if Chetan met someone that was close to doing some work that's relevant to him and takes a big leap forward in the work, like you don't know where the help is going to come from, or the natural intelligence that is a part of our greater consciousness here, how that's going to weave what we actually do. So I'm here to report that I'm gradually unblocking myself to do exactly what I want to do, not what I think I should do to save the world or to make the GCC work or to, just what's going to bring me joy and what do I know I can help with.
Can I take this opportunity to speak?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There were a couple of points what I wanted to add. One was connecting to people. You'll be working virtually a lot. What normal people won't understand. Even I was one of the normal person, might be 6 months back, until I realized that I want to look out for something big, and this is not my ultimate aim. Getting into a 2 lakh job or 3 lakh job, that's not my life agenda. Because almost from 1996, I was planting a lot of trees, doing a lot of things, but virtually working and then doing my research projects, building up things. And then one way I was interacting with government of India, where I used to not get much response. And then I looked at a global platform. I was looking at transparency.org, then later got into all these groups. Then slowly started interacting with people. People started interacting, and on these video calls, you get a lot of personal touch also. When you feel lost, there is somebody to listen to you. So that gives you a type of moral support. And I've seen in this group also, when I post something, some people usually help or support, whatever it might be. It might be technically, it might be financially or anything. They tell this can be done this way. So even I am working on the same platform of the SDGs, and then there is a lot of knowledge what I've carried inherently working with my family and then with communities, which I never wanted to show it on a platform because it's something like
Glitch number 3.
Yep. We'll give him a minute to reconnect. Alex, go ahead.
When I was at the GSS website, they have units, and it's for people who wish to take part only, not for people that are more interested in just turning up and watching. I call them the commentators, the spectators. There's a lot of taters when you go to the football match. Commentators, spectators, agitators.
French fry taters.
What we've got in the pipeline is a range of possibilities. Everything's a possibility, isn't it? So if I had an opportunity to do some concrete work on units, I'd appreciate that in this group. I never got into it in the GSS group because the units were focused on it in an area that wasn't in my forte. So I gravitated towards the GCC. Anyway, that's just my thinking at the moment. Clarity and coherence and confidence. If we had a special group, working group of people to focus on a set of units for members to take part in if they wish to do so. Over.
You know, I've said in some other contexts about time and the existing paradigm, cultural paradigm, does everything in its power to drive me either into being in the past or living in a future and staying out of the present. And a dimension of this is of these calls and what has been going on for me in the GCC is a place where it's providing this affordance to contribute to and co-create and join a container with no prerequisites, with no rules, with no expectations, and practice that. And that might seem sort of ethereal and, you know, it's intangible and it has undefined value, if any, and it doesn't have any traditional road signs or markers or flags to indicate what the it is. And, you know, and there are lots of people along the way that I'm sure have stuck their nose in or taken a glance and bounced off. And there are some people who've bounced out but managed to keep a little corner of their eye out just in case, just to see what there is, you know, what might be happening. But practicing what's been practiced here is less about the words and about things generated, solutions generated, outputs, tangible outputs generated, as much as it's been, I think, about learning how to hold energy collectively. You know, the languaging of creating a container for what we're containing here is not a simple thing. And it's not easy. And there's no book, and there's no school, there's no place to go to learn how to do this. And leveling up, for me, it's about me leveling up in service to the quality of that experience and in service to everybody else in the room. That thing Tammy was alluding to of how can I be of service or how can I help? And a lot of the meat and potatoes stuff is in fact offline or binary, but buying between a couple of people here and a couple of people there, and somebody reaching out to somebody else. And there's been a lot of secondary generativity out of just the connection here, for the fact of the connection here, and the knowing and learning to trust and to understand, to have meeting of minds with different individuals around different pieces of the puzzle. And it doesn't require an everybody agreeing to one thing. It doesn't require, in that sense, it's a completely peer-to-peer phenomena when it comes to generativity. But has the fact of these conversations and this community and the relationships that have emerged, at least for me, out of it, has the fact of that enabled and propagated and generated opportunities to collaborate and to co-create and to connect and to serve and to be served. Yeah. And I don't have that imperative that out of any one of these calls that something has to be output as a collective generated thing. The synchronous gathering of the tribe is more about the quality and connection and meeting of mind of why all of us are here. And I think almost 75 to 80% of that for me is not articulable. I could not put into words or translate or express the why I'm here. But I can share the level of imperative I feel to be here and the responsibility I feel to keep this place, to hold this space going. And with that, I'm complete. And there was a hand raised. I think it's Colin. Sir?
Merci, Doug. Very well put. It's a very interesting conversation today. I feel a bit like, I think Gertrude, with the feeling the multi-feature of the different people's perspectives. It is interesting. I think of this type of space where it's kind of abstract, where Doug describes it's not really an implementation of anything. It lives as a foundation, but in itself isn't really anything except for an opportunity. For example, in the real world, we could all be like standing on the street looking around up and down and, oh, look at this. I wonder if it's going to rain, and maybe sitting at a coffee shop or something, maybe talking about our latest thing. But we're really not doing anything. We're not a club other than, agreeing to meet. If you take it the next step, well, you are a club, become like a church or something where you have some kind of a common focus to keep you here. I think that would be a time zone or a time for a meeting where people enjoy people's company at the very least. I know some people are here just for connection. And then you get some people who see a little bit more in themselves that they'd like to offer, or maybe they see where they could do a little more one way or another. I see Tammy mentioned she got to do about 1% of what she envisioned. That's got to go somewheres. So, you know, she still has that, but, you know, wisely knew that it might not be what Lucy wanted, for instance, or what she needed right now. So it is a bit of, each one of our squares has its own set of properties and desires, status, personality. You know, I remember a couple of the biggest setbacks I've had since we're in blocking was personal problems with people misinterpreting or trying to butt their intentions in, maybe not realizing how forceful they were being. And one of them was actually visceral, and I couldn't really get any support because it wasn't happening to anybody else. It was happening to me. I shouldn't say any support. There was one gentleman here that supported me quite a lot with that. And I still think we have other lessons to go back and learn. Still. But this foundation that we have is kind of a unique thing because of the lack of expectations. You can come back. You didn't fail. You're just trying again. So I see different levels of speciality, where if you just want to stay on the general, you know, meet up and talk about things and see what happens, that's allowed. If you want to branch out and make a new show of your own, like say Barn Raising or others probably will come. I don't know if Friday still exists, but I've only been going to Saturday and Sunday myself. So I think it is this allowing the one-on-ones to happen. And another blocking I think that GCC had was that everything had to be recorded. So people were intimate that if it didn't happen on camera, it didn't happen. Now I'm hearing the opposite, right? And the truth of the matter is it's all kinds of different things following along the journey that each one of us are having individually. And how do we share that most effectively? You know, what are we trying to achieve? So at the very least, we're a privileged group of people at a coffee shop. And at the very most, we're selfish or selfless people doing pro bono things for needy people around us. And I think everybody here kind of has that whole mix, depending on what they dip their toe into. So it would be nice if we had a way to be more defined, at the same time allow that general platform that could grow into anything. So we're not nailed down to, oh, this is who you are and what you're doing. And I must say, the 80% for me, the takeaway is actually learning about myself and about other people, and feeling that interactivity, which I think is very important, because when opportunity knocks, you'll know better how to seize it. I think what you can do and how, you know, more experience, you could say. So for those that have generality, we have to make space for them to be general. Like Doug is way general. And people like Sam who want to get out the right hammer eventually, he's got a cabinet full of all the hammers, and the missing one we'll have to buy when we get there, which I appreciate as well. So anyway, that's all I had to say. It's an interesting place. I think that we can discover ourselves and others, and it would be nice if we could hit on the STGs. But I think a big part of it is learning how to interact and how to be clear about what it is we could or should or would do, and talking that out amongst ourselves. And who knows, maybe another Greta Thunberg is on her way out of the GCC. Who knows where this could go? Maybe it could be something Dave does or Lucy does, people who have been here and are great people, but we don't see here day to day. But like Doug says, there's a few layers to the GCC, and to try to squeeze it out in this meeting, I think is a mistake. But to try to say, hey, I've got something, or I'd like some help, that is a great place to bring that. So anyway, that's what I'll say. Thank you.
Chayton, welcome back. Do you want to pick up with where you left off? Or are you frozen? Yep, you're there.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes. What I was trying to tell you was, one is these groups helps us to connect us, and then when you have a video call or a weekly call, you tend to get a human touch. You need to have, if I discuss the same thing with my dad or my sister or my brother or my friends, might be they won't be able to get my pulse or the way of thinking. But when we discuss the same points with people who can understand what I'm trying to tell, with the same level of thinking people, then it would be easy to communicate. And down the line, we can pass it. Might be there will be different levels of people whom we can pass on the information, how much ever required for them to understand and for them to execute. So this was one of the points what I wanted to tell. And apart from that, there were a couple of things like I'm working on Twitter also on this AI and then all the parts of the AI. So what I see over there is a faster response compared, but I learned a lot here. That is a different thing, but this is a different platform and that is a different platform. So one thing is, now we are at a level, I am at a level, I would like to tell, out of might be 17 SDGs what I'm working on, 17 different briefs I'm working on. Out of that, we have some solutions for at least some 7-8 briefs, not complete solutions, but might be a part of solution. And then the same things has to be implemented in India also, where I see a lot of gap in terms of might be the policies. The policies are very far. The policies are too far, and then the might be the economic policy guidance who is giving might be Rajiv or the Niti Aayog. There is a lot of gap over there. I'm trying to interact with them also, and they're asking me to join as an employee or an NGO. I want to, yes, might be not a huge profit percentage, but I want to be a value creating organization. I want to be a what do you call a profit for organization. So you can't ask me to work as an employee for Government of India, or you can't ask me to work as a non-profit organization. So these were some of the points where I usually think which way should I go, because two of our projects got I had submitted the complete project of 17 SDGs to Government of India also. Out of that, 2 has already been implemented. Rest of the projects I have not given the full details to them, what I have worked, because some way I have to also be benefited, and I also have to be recognized. And they have implemented half of that project. Even I have not given the full project of those 2 projects, which has already been last week, last 3 days back, what they implemented. So these are gaps where they are trying to put us down. We don't have transparency over there also. If somebody has researched something, it has to be announced, okay, this person has done it or this organization has done it, and then we are implementing it. One was a gap there, how to get that things done. And then when I look at the economic policies, what India is drafting, there is a lot of gap what we are discussing here. I'll just quote an example. The smart cities, what our PM Narendra Modi speaks about. There's a huge gap. He is speaking about creating 100 smart cities, where we in India, still the cities what are there, the villages what are there, we don't have the basic facility of electricity, power, and other things. And then one more is AI, artificial intelligence, blockchains, and then what these people have done is they have changed a lot of land documents. This is one major concern area. Without taking approval of the farmer, landowner, they have changed a lot of documents. they have awarded, they have taken and then I think the justice system also has to change a lot. What has happened is they have awarded, they have put the money into the bank, some bank, they have told we are not accepting that money, peanuts, what you are giving, where the land costs somewhere around 6 billion or 6 million or 7 million. You're offering us 6 lakhs or 8 lakhs. We are not into it. And then we want something like we have to generate revenue out of it, and then it has to be a mixed development. This is our proposal. So I'm planning to post that also viral, and then I'm in talks with GOA also on this. So I'm at a level where the project is ready, and then we have to move ahead. And then one more important discussion was we were working with this GSS daily monitoring. We have one more group. So over there, the learning process. The learning process has to change. So there are different learning processes. The current learning processes, what we are using, is a very old system of learning process, and then it's a memory based. Hopefully, you guys are able to connect to my points. Are you there? Anybody? Doc? Hello?
Yes, we've got you.
We're here. We're here.
Learning process,
So
old memory learning process. You were going to describe more about that?
yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes. What I was trying to tell you was, the current system process, that is the old learning process, that is the same system what is India teaching also, and the system also runs on the same. There are different learning processes which has to be implemented. And then when I try to interact with, we have a team where Peter is generally very active in the team, and Michael and Ram, who are very closely interacting with me in that program, where I see a lot of scope of growth, and then that's where our focus has to be. And then that's the next development what we can work on. That's a huge changing direction for the world. That is an interconnected thing to all the SDGs as well as all the briefs. We need a lot of partners, big partners, like Google, FB, IBM, because space I can give. I have space. So might be the physical space, the land I can give. So we need a lot of people, such kind of partners, where we have to exhibit and then make them understand that this is the next, because we are not working on the current and the futuristic model. We are working on a memory model, which is a very old system. I'll tell you an example. My sister works on a similar model of a memory model, where she understands something, she memorizes something, and then she puts out some. That means she writes out. That is, she comes out with things. But the way I think is a different model, where when I look at an object, I look at a different way. I visualize it. I expect it to be real, and then something like your virtual reality. So that is the next level of the learning process which has to come. That has to be implemented. That's how we are going to move to the next direction of growth of the complete economy. And then when I look at this GSS daily, when people keep asking about all their doubts, many of the projects are still, we still don't have a weekly review. And then if somebody submits a project, it has to directly go to a technical team or wherever he is getting stuck. So that is the complete learning module, end to end, has to be built up. I'm sorry, I don't know. I can see just some 5,000 feet 1000 or 5000 feet I can see.
I'm
I don't know.
5,000 feet.
Are you
Everybody's hears you.
are you on a phone?
Yeah, I'm on a phone.
Okay, if you want to, you can see up to 4 people at a time if you swipe to the right or swipe to the left. It'll show you more of the people that are attending, but everybody's hearing you and following. So.
Let me just try it. Yeah, I can see all the 4. I think Joshin is there, Alex is there, Tammy is there.
Yeah, you can only see 4 people at a time on a phone with Zoom, but if you swipe back and forth, you can sort of connect with how many people and everybody who's there.
Okay. Okay. These were my experiences in last might be 3-4 months. One is I've got a direction where we all can move ahead. So one is collaborating I've even told Government of India that I have a virtual team which I'm working with who are supporting me on the back end as well as other things technically or might be understanding something. So the next level would be, I don't know, you guys have to suggest, might be if required, we can all have some sort of how to take it ahead. We can first collaborate that and then form a team and then look at moving ahead. First thing is, now we have something to sail. We have a compass. Might be we require a bit of fuel and then a bit of people, how to take it ahead, keep it rowing ahead. So kindly add on from here. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to discuss with me. You can ask me questions.
Again, that kind of sounds like Sam's lament halfway between barn raising and unblocking. So I think Doug might have something to say on that.
Yeah, so this is sort of perfect, actually. So there are, I have a sense of some of the things you're touching. I have a sense of some of the people that I think you and I have in common. I know some of the other people here also connect with Peter, connect with Michael. You know, there are points of contact. So one dimension of it is is sort of having awareness and actually knowing what you're up to. So part of that is you publishing it or putting it in a place where people can look at that. I would invite you to put any links or whatever into the chat because the chat is saved with Zoom. The other place that you can also post links about some of this stuff, and my suggestion would be relatively brief and succinct descriptions of, you know, what you're up to would be in the on the Facebook group page, to just say, here are pieces of my puzzle I'd like to share, and see who nibbles and who responds.
Okay.
And different people, you know, my experience is, you know, different people experience pull from different things. So one dimension of it can be you have a project where there are 3 other people I know and have high respect for that are involved. And when you post on the site, you also sort of ping, you know, tag their names in it, which is a way of letting them know you posted here, but also letting the people here know that they're part of your tribe on that particular piece of the puzzle. So a lot of this is, you know, signaling. How do we get, you know, the information, enough information to have a sense of what would be of interest, what wouldn't be of interest, what makes sense for me to stick my toe into, or what am I curious about following, digging in deeper on. So part of that is you're signaling out, and the Facebook page is a place to do that. You're showing up here. Thank you. Much appreciated. And 90% of the battle in the world is showing up. So your being here is a big step toward doing that because you're on the radar. Like everybody here just met you. So it's voice, it's face, it's energy, it's also commonalities. So, and I, at least organically for me, at least in my experience of this, the people, people will respond based on where they're at, who they are, what they're interested in, or what skills, talents they bring, who is of their tribe, who's also of your tribe. All of those things factor in. If you put something up and it literally sits there like a side of fish, and there's no response, there's no comment, there's no ping back, there's no nothing, then it's not a signal of going into judgment about here and the people here and whether there's anybody to play with here or not. It's about, okay, that didn't work. How can I come at it differently? How can I frame it differently? How can I set it up differently? And that's a practice that I think every single person here has lived, has experienced, is experiencing on a continuing basis, is in constant learning about. Tammy has something called the alphabet code that is right at the beginning of being birthed into the world. And Alex has been hammering via scope and a vision that he has. And Josh has, been focused on engagement for websites and other dimensions and expressions in the GCC, but has other connections in other groups just like you do. Everybody here is engaged in that process in real time on an ongoing basis. And I think that it's in the doing of it. So
I had a point here.
Okay, sure. I'm complete. And Josh raised his hand, so I just want to give him a chance to chime in, and then let me come back to you if that's okay.
Yes. You continue.
Yeah, we have a day called Friday Experiment, and no one's been able to host that recently. And I'm not able to host all Fridays, but I could host a first Friday of the month. And what you're saying, Doug, is we all have our own things. Maybe our Friday Experiment is to focus in on the individual needs of the community and the tribe, and have a Friday where just first come, first serve, make a little sign-up list and help people on Fridays get their messages out. I'd be happy to host the first and maybe the second Friday of the month. And I just want to bring that up to the group if that's something that's needed, just because it seems like it's emerging and arising. We have a day where we can just help individuals get their things out so that people can see what we're doing. And then also just I'd be happy to share any knowledge that I know. So if there's things I can help people with, I've been wanting to work with Alex for a long time and help with his Viascope. And also I know Stacy has a lot of things. So if I can help on a Friday, Chetan, I would be happy to do that on the first and the second Friday of the month. So I'll communicate that and put that out there. It's an idea I had, because it's Sunday Unblocking, what other people think, how we can help more people. I'm curious to know. With that, I'm complete.
Yay, Josh.
Love that idea.
Yes, Shirley, I'll make a note of that, Josh. Tammy here, everybody, I would just like to tell you people, it's nothing about our PMO againstly I'm speaking or something. Don't take it the other way. Actually, he was against regional languages. We have multiple languages in India. Every state we have nearly 30 states in India, and then we have, I think, some 25, 30 languages, or might be what I know is 5, 6 languages, what I can speak and write 3, 4 languages. So he wanted to bring in Hindi as our common language. So for which most of the people were against. So I started this movement also along with this, that every language has to be recognized and it has its own this thing. So this is the area what I was trying to tell. It's the next movement for AI. There's a lot of knowledge which is hidden in these languages. So languages, pictures, and all these things. So I had given the project, half of the project to them also. I have not given the complete project. So I think might be 20 days back, I gave the project to them. And then some 3 days back, they told that they'll be, till November 30th, they were against regional languages. He was against regional language. We should not celebrate the regional language festival. We should not have a different flag, all those things. So I approached some of the artists, might be these bands, regional bands. I shared those song also. So I spoke to them over the phone that we have to develop a united theme with our own language, including women and children. So they came up with a song, beautiful song, with our own language. So this is the area of the AI where the next movement is, the alphabets. Might be many of you can't pronounce my name. Chetan. Chetan means a new energy. So that's what the meaning is in Kannada or in Hindi. So there are a lot of alphabets missing in English. Don't take it the other way, defensive mode. I'm not putting down any language here. I'm just telling. There is a lot of languages, alphabets or pronunciations which are missing. So one point, major point was when till November 30th, who was against, after seeing the project, after I went on viral and then after I started creating all these movements, so they launched that we are going to study all the languages and every language would be available online and you can study. So they literally copied the project and then they did not even recognize me. And then, but I have not given the full module, how to make it into AI. So even I have cut down. But that recognition must be there from the, and then they asked me to join as an employee. That is not my cup of tea. Again, getting back to employee mode, because 1.5 years I was into entrepreneurship mode where government of India literally failed. They asked me to pledge my assets to get loan. So I told no, I'm not pledging any of my asset. I was in a growth stage where they were not able to recognize or support me. So these are all some literal challenges what we face in India. I don't know how sure I should discuss all these things on this platform, but I feel you guys can understand, so I'm just discussing with you people. Somebody who would like to add on?
Yeah, there isn't a voice that speaks for everybody here, but I appreciate your bringing you, and I appreciate your bringing India into our mix. And it's certainly of interest to me, and all I can really say, at least for my part, is welcome to our melting pot. And over time, we'll all learn, but certainly I'll learn more of you. You'll learn more of me and other people here.
Yes.
And the thing I always resort to, which is of the essence for me of the GCC, is the old question about why did the bear go over the mountain? And the answer is to see what he could see. And I think, at least for me, that's all I can do, is see what I can see, learn what I can learn. And to the extent I have any value or energy or things to add generatively, that's what I'm here for.
No, we are already into it, so no turning back.
There you go.
We have to make it big. As a team, might be they recognize me, they don't recognize me. I keep publishing it. Either I know myself that I am ahead of them. Either they should be copying me. If they are ahead of me, they should have published and they should have done it before me. Because I have published with UNSRID, I have published on my Facebook, I have given them the project. So I just feel, let me keep moving, let me see how far it will go. And then might be, at least I'm the person who is changing things, who has taken and decided I'm not going to sit like this. I'm going to change. Let the change start from me. This is what I believe in. Somebody please take over.
Thank you. Josh, you have your hand raised. And Alex,
Yeah.
you'll go next.
Just thinking about our meeting yesterday and what Alexander Laszlo was saying, in the back of his chair, he had a message saying, be the systems you want to see in the world. And that's what we need to do, is just be the systems that we want to see, but keep showing up to let us know that these systems are needed. So I just wanted to say to you, ask you, Chetan, where are you from in India?
Bangalore.
Bangalore, okay. Because I know India is very diverse. My dad lives outside of Pune in Ahmednagar, and I spent a year traveling in India, and it's a very diverse country. And we're from all over the world here. So Alex is from Australia, Joss Winder is from England, Tammy's from Canada. So we're representing all over the world, and we're all here just to learn about the different needs and systems that we all have, and just to share the conversation. So today is a moment for unblocking things that are blocking you personally and then your community. So I'm curious to get back to the conversation of where people are blocked, so we have a good unblocking day so everybody feels unblocked today. And with that, I'm complete, and nice to meet you, and thanks for coming to join the conversation today.
Now we're officially at 12, coming up at 12:50, so we have 10 minutes to the top of the hour, and that represents the wrap. So I'd like to open up for folks with closing thoughts, contributions, shares. How was this for you?
Yeah, it was a great time for me to jump back in. Thank you. I want to reiterate what Josh had said about his intuition that maybe Friday would be a good thing to try to highlight some more of these things. And from the beginning, I've had the impression that it's nice to have the video so people can see it. But I use the word but. I think it could be a lot more valuable if certain things were produced. So, if we actually had a production team sitting at 50,000 feet thinking, oh, this would be great. Why don't we run some credits at the end where people can actually get some information? Current people who are here, not here, projects, websites, they can pause it and go there from the video. Just simple things. I think we talked about having a newsletter. We've talked about doing profiles. We've talked about a lot of things, but how do you get a pop-up barn raising group to take that on as a focus and say, okay, that's what we're doing today, or to achieve these little things. If they're important, it doesn't have to have unanimous vote. Just enough people say, yeah, I think that would be useful. But there always seems to be within this lack of direction, chaos that seems an entropy that seems to come in and eat it. And so for Chetan, I'm thinking, I come back and think, okay, that's a great, a big thing to chew, very large thing to chew. How are you going to fund it? So that's another thing that we've come into this group, lots of great ideas, but how do we fund that? So, you know, maybe production and marketing and these awful, terrible words are some more general pieces that we need to actually go forward in certain things or foster. And that's what practical knowledge ecology tried to do. And we, you know, at Laszlo, and I know 15 or 20 of us met for about 4 months, and that fizzled out too. So it really is a hard trick. You know, Sam is doing a great job at keeping a balance. Doug is doing a great job at keeping a balance. But I see production value being an opportunity that doesn't seem, from my view, seems to be the thing that's needles away at me and saying, you know, what if we did this or what if we did that? So I think highlighting people, what they're doing, not so much to matchmake them or manage their projects, but to get the experience and awareness out there so that the next level can take its place. Because without funding, you can only do so much pro bono. That's what it comes down to. So anyway, thank you.
Alex?
When I was designing Bioscope, I often turned to Freelancer for help and design advice. And I noticed Freelancer was predominantly dominated by people, programmers and designers from India, where Jeetan comes from. So that's one of the things. They're very industrious on the IT front in India, and you won't get better value if you need help with a website. But on the other front, I'm not here to get into a production. It's not here to add value to some show or museum piece. I'm here to barn race, and this part of the endeavour for the GCC is important, I think. And I just like to focus on how income can be generated into a non-profit via donations and via banner advertising on people's websites. If local groups have websites with banner advertising from ethical corporations that are doing a sustainable thing, great. That money can be used to pay the hosting fees for your group, you know. You don't have to be out of pocket. But it's non-profit venture community advice, and it's great to see that there's 4 or 5 people now at the GCC who have all expressed an interest, you know, in designing a page of their own, which is good news. It's something happening.
I would like to add here. What you're telling is exactly right. We have to collaborate, and we have to collaborate with big MNCs also. If we want to create a knowledge platform and then work on that, we need this collaboration.
Chetan, we lost your audio. I think we might have lost Connect. While he's reconnecting, anybody else have closings? Alex, you want to finish up?
I'll finish up my closing thoughts by saying that the big companies like Amazon and Google, who deal with affiliate marketing corporations by the hundreds and thousands, they need to get in your face, right? They want to get in our face with their message, and they pay big money to do it. You can ask Harry. And so if you've got your own local regional website and you work out how to make it grow with the tree plan, it'll grow. It's just a matter of having face-to-face conversations with people, which is what I do when I go out. With people say, what are you into? And I say, oh, I'm mixed up with the global collaboration. You want to hear more about it? And that gets the conversation going. Over. Hello, Sam.
Hey, sorry, I've been in and out. I did hear 2 things I wanted to respond to. And that is the immediate thing that Colin just raised about production values. For at least Saturdays and Sundays, some of you know this, I do post it up to YouTube. I do post it now to 3 different playlists, Tammy's, mine, that are both unlisted, as well as now a public GCC playlist, starting about 1 or 2 months ago when we actually decided to do these publicly. In addition, I also create a Google Doc, which contains the link to the actual video. It contains the notes taken during the session. It contains an itemized list of participants who attended that day. And it also, over a couple of hours, sometimes half a day, eventually contains the automated transcript that Google, YouTube produces. So you can actually search it, get to the approximate minute and second, and then start listening from there. So all of that is post-production. It's not video post-production, but it is some form of post-production that is actually quite collaborable. So anyone can actually go to those docs, and there's hundreds of them now. They're world editable. So as long as you've got a Google account, you can go there and edit whatever's there. If I forgot a name, or if you thought of something, or if a key theme is not mentioned, please go at it, because that adds value. So even if it's not in the form of 30 or 45-second snippets, it's a form of post-production, which I think I'm trying to do so that these can be shared more easily. So that's item number 1. Item number 2 is this. I believe that 1 + 1 = 2, and I believe that quite strongly. When I encounter someone who says 1 + 1 = 5, I'm first surprised, but then I lean in and say, okay, so in what system of thinking or mathematics does 1 + 1 = 5? Well, then they can explain it to me, and then I can say, wow, I learned something today. I can now start thinking in this new way. But if I lean in and this person doesn't actually explain it to me, or this person laughs at me, or this person calls me unenlightened, then I find that curious. So my curiosity can only take me so far if the other party is not willing to actually educate me. And I find that actually quite common. So I'm here trying to lean in to things that I do not understand, and I bring them up because I don't understand them. I do want to map these mental objects so that I have these understandings. And if that drives people away, they can be very clear about that with me, and perhaps I can conduct myself differently. But right now, I'm doing it in a curious, generous, inquiring way that I'm hoping is a way for me to learn something. Now, if there's a better way for me to learn something, either through hypnosis or implants or whatever, tell me. But right now, this is the method I know. So that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing, okay? I'm not here necessarily to make people feel good, although that doesn't bother me if people do. But I'm here to try and learn something, okay? I'm here really trying to learn something so that I can expand my consciousness and hopefully do better in everything else in my day and various days. So I do apologize if my presence here doesn't make people feel good, okay? Over.
That's not my case, Sam. And I don't mean to reply to your checkout for a long period of time, but I do think you're doing a wonderful job of raw curation. I think it's very available for people if they want to take an academic look at things. I was thinking something just more of a production thing to Alex and Sam both. I heard there might have been some pushback to what I said, and I think these things could be discussed a little bit further when we get to the nuance, but I won't spend time now. But I agree with what both of you guys are saying as well.
I'll check out. Nice to see everyone. For me, it's about if you see something that needs to be done, step up. Simple. That's what I did. That's what Sam was also suggesting. Okay, so he's like, okay, well, how can I make this material most easily distributable? So if you see a need, that's your corner of the universe saying, hey, let's do this thing. And so I did that for a bunch of things that I saw what needed to be done. And I personally drew the line at post-production on these videos for myself. But if someone has a burning desire, really all it is doing the work. You know, when I look at my experience at the Artery, the community home that I live in, you know, people are, there feels to me, and this isn't to directly for you, Colin, but just as an example, we had a lot of, you know, 20-year-olds moving in there thinking that they were entitled to have all this stuff done for them. It's not the way it is. It's like, if you want to have a functioning community home, each person needs to put their part in, and you do what you see needs to be done. And that's the gift. That's the gift that everybody brings to the table, is that other perspective and viewpoint. But I don't find that saying this needs to be done 20 times works that well. I think stepping up and hacking a video together and teaching yourself how to do that, or finding someone who wants to do that work, that's the way to make it happen. Because just putting a wish out into the universe that I wish that the carpets were redone doesn't mean that the carpets are going to get redone. You actually have to do the heavy lifting to make it so. So in terms of, and you know, this is the big part of what I've really been learning and wanting to be different for myself in. I can edit. I've done a ton of editing. I don't like it, so I don't want to do it. I have amazing skills in other areas. It's where I want to focus my time and attention. And I think that at the end of the day, the garbage needs to be taken out and the toilet needs to be cleaned. And, you know, I put my hand up to do a lot of that in this space, meaning post-processing on the videos and putting, you know, doing all of that heavy lifting. And now other people have stepped up, and it's beautiful. For me to be able to come to Sunday knowing I have no more responsibilities whatsoever. I don't have to do anything. Great. It's beautiful. And it's beautiful to come and connect with the people and see where I want to invest myself, because that's the freedom that I need. So just to be clear, in terms of the Friday experiment spot, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. So anyone can pick any day to do whatever experiment they want to do. Pick it up. Put a name on it. Put it on the schedule. It's globally editable. You know, it might be confusing to call them the Friday experiments, but if you want to do that, you know, whatever. Go for it. It's just about stepping up to the plate and picking up what you want to do and hacking around and testing it. And with that, I'm definitely complete.
Thank you for that. Closing was closing. Is anything else? Well, I'll do a wrap of my own to send us on the way out to the rest of our day or evening or wherever you are. Josh, I love the idea of standing up some kind of a showcase vehicle for people to bring their stuff, but also just on a leveling up basis for people to learn how to do this. We had the deep dives that were the long form. We had the Heiner experiment with a more polished thing evolved and developed over a period of time that was much more structured. But it's something to learn how to do you, like, you know, for a person to learn how to get in front of the camera and talk for 10 minutes and make sense and showcase and share their story. And the fact that they have one that they've lived with 24/7 for the last 15 years doesn't mean when given the opportunity and the record button is turned on that the first time comes out right. So the idea of creating a space and an opportunity for people to start that process, no loss, no foul, and multiple opportunities if that's what it takes and whatever. But creating something like that, I would love, and I think is a perfect sprout for this. So I'd love to explore that with you, and would certainly support that. Um, and this session, Sam, just in your closing, I hope I didn't say anything that gave you the feeling that like you weren't welcome in Sunday Unblocking and that you were bringing anything other than love and value. Um, I value you being here. I really appreciate all that you do for the Sunday sessions, both back end, but also, you know, holding the space on the technical side and opening the session and doing all that work. And but I also value your being here, and you're in my process is, I think, really important. We're both learning and we're both navigating and doing better each day than we did the day before at getting to mom. At getting to a meeting of minds, at getting to understanding of how we got there. And you bringing what you know about where you started from, me bringing what I know about where I started from, which is the whole thing. Like that collective, between you and I, collective learning, that's why I'm here. Because if you and I can figure that out, it means you've figured it out for all the me's you run into out there. And I've figured it out for all the you's I run into out there. And it's a win-win to the world. So I just want to share that.
Hey, I'm glad you brought it up. I have to admit that some amount of that comment was probably about 1% relevant to what you just said, but it's about 99% relevant to other people and not you.
Okay.
I think as long as we're both leaning in, I'm extremely happy. Okay. And that's why I'm here. Okay. And I think we see both sides of the yin yang and unblocking and barn raising and all that, you know, stuff that doesn't really need boundaries. So we both, I think, get that. Okay. So yeah, no, you should rest assured it's not you I'm talking about. Likewise,
Okay.
I saw you flinch when I said I'm not here to make people feel good. Okay. Again, it was like 1% you, but 99% somebody else.
Okay.
Other people.
No problem.
Sorry,
I saw you flinch visibly.
I'm going to jump off. I don't want to be rude, but thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah. So that's a wrap. And thank you all for being here. And this was really valuable.
Yeah, Doug, I just want to say, I don't know if I've shared to our community, our tribe, but I would like to participate more. I'm just trying not to die up here in the mountains. So, and what I mean by that is I've got to go make fresh water today so that I stay hydrated. My mom and the dog stays hydrated. And a lot of challenges have been coming up for me just living out here. And I'm choosing this life so I can be more compassionate towards how other people are living in the world that don't have enough. And it makes me compassionate, but it's also, I have a bandwidth problem. I can only get so much internet during the month. And when it gets close to the bandwidth, I'm screwed. I can't open up a Friday session later in the month. So that's why I said I can only do 2 sessions. So, and just getting ready for winter is always a preparation, you know, building and getting ready. So it's not that I don't want to participate.
Understood.
It's, you know, I just have to be realistic. So I just wanted to say, I don't always say that. I act, oh, everything's fine, life is good. But, you know, the generator just broke and blah, 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 and money problems and yeah, yada, yada. So I'm working hard to get that stuff more in tap for 2020 so I can really participate. But I can do the first and the second Friday of the month and also maybe open up another one at a certain time, like Tammy said. So I really appreciate your closing thoughts, Tammy. And
Thanks.
like you said, the rug doesn't fix itself. So someone's got to do it. And that's what builds our community. So let's just all, Sam, I see you 100%. You put in, at least from my perspective, 500% more effort in the last couple months, and it's viewed and seen. And that's motivating me to put in more to the community. So I just wanted to put that out there. You're putting in the effort makes me want to put in more effort. So thank you for that. And Tammy, it makes me really happy that you're doing what you're doing, because I know how much effort you put in. So you being in the right space makes me more motivated as well, and vice versa. So being a community and a tribe means helping when the other person can't, and vice versa. So let's just continue to do that. That's my closing. Thank you for a good Sunday unblocking. Thank you for letting me share that.
Tribe notion, if I could send you bandwidth, I probably, would try to, okay? Knowing that you've got a resource there that's limited. So it's curious whether or not a different hotspot would work, or whether an antenna would work. I don't know. Those are all kind of things where, if we're in a true tribe and somebody needed, some potatoes, and I had extra potatoes, I would give that person some potatoes, right? That's the world I want to live in.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for another $100 a month to put up another satellite, and that would be more bandwidth. I have to put a whole nother satellite up, or wait for Elon Musk to get his 40,000 satellite Starlink thing up. But until then, I'm limited. So hopefully I'll get that worked on. And I'm building a whole nother building just to put that satellite on. And I got the foundation on it. So that should be up in the next couple months. So thank you.
Bye all, and thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.